Jose Mourinho is officially on his greatest hits tour. The American women ransack Iceland in an international friendly. And who is ready for best of three soccer series? That and much more here on Friday's Morning Kickaround. Hello and good morning. This is Morning Kickaround, where we cover the world's favorite game from everyone's favorite country. Coming to you live each Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning. I'm Robert Kerr. Happy to be joined by my partner, Jason Davis.
That's me. I'm Jason Davis. It says so right there. Oh, I'm pointing the wrong direction. I can't point. I don't know which direction to point in. It's right there. You can see it. There it is. I'm kind of putting my hand underneath it. Happy Friday, everybody. I'm ready. I'm ready for the weekend. I'm ready for Major League Soccer action and everything else.
Yeah, we've definitely reached the right side of the calendar. Another busy fall weekend calendar of sports. Before we get into the business, do you have any quality American Dad fall time planned this weekend?
Oh, there may. I hate to be so cliche, but there may be a visit to a winery in my future this weekend. It could be. There could be that.
I'm picturing flannel shirts, wine, and changing
No.
leaves.
I don't do flannel. I think we've talked about this. I don't do flannel. Flannel's not my speed. If you do flannel and you look good in flannel, you got the lumberjack thing going on, more power to you. You think with the beard and the coloring that I'd be very lumberjack adjacent? No, not me. But that's okay. If you do you, I'll do me. I'll wear a nice crew, sleeves pulled up a little bit, crisp air, glass of wine. I'm good to go.
That sounds like a very pleasant day, Jason. I'm very happy for you that you have all that lined up. Before we get into the action of the day, be sure to like and subscribe to Morning Kickaround. This show, there's getting a little bit of momentum. We're over the 300 supporters, followers threshold. One step closer to 50,000 is the goal.
Yeah, look, there it is. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Please do all those things. We're creeping our way towards our 50,000 subscriber goal by the end of 2024. That, when they do the telethon and they've got the big thermometer and it shows how much money has come in and it's creeping up, if we do the scale right, it can look like we're almost there. If we just screw up the scale enough and do some misinformation, but we're going to get there. I promise. We're going to get there. 50,000. Tell your friends.
There's a concept we discussed building the show we haven't done yet, but I did actually have a wake and take a soccer thought first thing in the morning as we woke up. And it was, Jason, you going on like a subscriber drive and just desperately like giving away stuff for subscribers in your background. Like, who wants this scarf?
Yeah, I think I maybe mentioned that a couple days ago, that I'm willing to give away anything in this little studio of mine. And maybe what I need to do is put together a video of what exactly is in here. Because I think, what you see, we're very narrow right now, Robert, so that we can fill up as much of the screen as possible. You can see I've got some scarves displayed. That's a fairly new display behind me right there. Look, I think, let me just go up the list here. I've try to figure out where my hand is. Maidstone United. Yeah, I don't know why. Somebody that listened to my show said that to me. Orlando City, Nashville, the old Nashville, the old Nashville Soccer Club. Look, St. Louis Football Club doesn't even exist anymore. Dead club.
Yeah, lots of dead clubs right there.
OKC Energy, not. I'm wearing that shirt too. That they're not operating at the moment, are they? Charlotte, Republic, Pensacola. That's a Pensacola scarf, and I've got like 50 more. Like that's just scratching the surface. And then there's all kinds of other stuff. I got bobbleheads back here. I got glasses. I got balls. I got there's a Didier Drogba Phoenix Rising bobblehead just to my left over here. Oh, I'm going to show this.
I was going to say, Jason, you can't mention a Phoenix Rising Didier Drogba bobblehead off screen without sharing that with us.
Pulled out my headphones, so I couldn't hear you while I was doing that. But here you go. Look,
you got to show us
Didier Drogba bobblehead. Look,
with Phoenix the knee Rising. Slide.
Says Drogba on the back, got the ponytail action and everything. Like, how can you do better than that for Americana soccer wise? Like, how can you do better?
That has, I mean, one of the world's best doing the best goal celebration in a minor league USL jersey. I mean,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
is peak.
Now,
Thank you for sharing that.
shout out to Arias Tosh, who's in our chat today. Always here, greeting us in Lithuanian, which,
Yeah.
man, that's a nice thing. Jason has some obscure U.S. soccer merch that many of us sickos would be salivating over. It would take a sicko to really appreciate everything that's in this room. I promise you that. But it is cool that I've been able to collect this stuff over the years. So yeah, maybe we will do a some sort of telethon type action, like make bid, and I don't even mean like money, although that would be nice too. But if you subscribe, we'll put your name in a hat, and then boom, you're in the running. I don't know. We'll work it out. We'll work out the details. Go ahead.
All right, like and subscribe to the channel. Like we mentioned, you can contact us on social media, Kickaround on X and Instagram, and give us a letter or note on morningkickaround at gmail.com. Let's get into those long balls and get this thing rolling for Friday.
Oh, we're going to do some long balls. Let me see if I can find.
Long ball number 1 for Friday morning. Jason, are you ready for the best of 3 soccer series that's coming this weekend?
No and yes and maybe all at the same time. Like I think
Way to narrow.
this,
Yes, no,
I
and
know
maybe.
I've narrowed it down. I'm covering all of my bases to mix my metaphor. I've got all the corners covered. That's hockey. I don't know what I'm doing right now. Okay. I I want more soccer in my life.
Mm.
Like that's a thing. Like I crave it. Like it's a desperation thing. Like you're when you're in this, you find yourself just wanting more soccer. And technically speaking, Robert, this is more soccer, right? When we're saying like, okay, the MLS Cup playoffs, what have they been like in the past? I mean, there were times when, how many formats have we? Can we count the formats? Like, I don't know if I have enough fingers to count MLS Cup playoff formats. One point we had the standard home and away, 2-game aggregate tie where it was aggregate score lines determined who'd advanced. In the past, we've had series. It's been a long time, but in the past, we had series in the very early days of MLS. We had that single elimination tournament for a long time. Like it felt like that one was the way to go for a long time. And it brought the drama, right? It brought a lot of energy. Top seed, hosting the lower seed, one game, boom, done. That was fun. But this one means that there's going to be like you're building drama within this round. I think it's weird we're doing best of 3 and then we go to single elimination after that. But,
Oh, it's only this first round that's a
it's
series?
only this first round is a series. In fact, I have the playoff format page up on MLS soccer.com. That's a throwback for USS listeners back in the day. All right. So round 1 is best of 3 series. Conference semifinal, single elimination matches hosted by the higher seed. There will be, and this is another difference. In the best of 3 series, there is no extra time at the end of 90 minutes. If you are drawn level at the end of 90 minutes, you go straight to a penalty kick shootout to determine who wins that game in the series. So I think I laid this out before, but you could go goalless in the series and win the series. You can go goalless. You could lose. I don't even got like, you could obviously, if you keep 2 clean sheets, you'd have to keep 2 clean sheets in that process in order to have a chance, because you'd have to be 0-0 after 90 minutes twice and win 2 penalty kick shootouts to advance. But you could obviously get skunked in the other game 5-0 and still advance because you kept it scoreless and you got to penalty. It's a weird one. So we have no extra time, penalty kicks to determine winners in the best of 3. Then in the conference semifinals, you do play extra time, and then obviously penalty kicks after that if you're still level. And then it's the same in the conference finals, and then obviously MLS Cup final is at the higher seed, 1 game for all the marbles.
I really wish you wouldn't provide the coaches and the leadership of these teams with the idea to drag these first games. I'm not even sure what to expect from these first games. Are the away teams just going to make it as ugly and dirty as possible and just like try to kill 90 minutes and, get to that? Or are they actually going to play genuine ball? I mean, that's where the pluses and minuses of an aggregate system are. But just having the 3 games set to the first round, that makes me think that was purely for where could we slip in games
Oh, yeah.
within, like, the
Oh, yeah.
scheduling? That's
Oh,
all
yeah. This
all scheduling
the
based.
best of 3 series is entirely about giving Apple TV more games to put on the channel
Yeah.
or on the service, right? That's what this is about. You know, you can rationalize all you want, and I know the competition people at MLS, they could give us some rationale for this that sounds good. Like, well, this ultimately determines the team that is in best form. I mean, what it gives the higher seed a true advantage through multiple games. If they have one bad game, they don't get knocked out. So the higher seed with 2 games at home, that you could do that. But we all know what this is about. It doesn't mean it's completely invalid, right? Mitch said it makes no sense. It's perfect for MLS. It does feel
Thank you,
like
Mitch.
that, right? Right? It feels like this is MLS throwing darts at a board or throwing this is a Jackson Pollock painting of a playoff format. This is what we got here.
With the best of 3, I think that eliminates, more of the possibility of an upset or of a Cinderella. It's like basketball, like,
Yeah.
a lower seeded basketball team can win 1 random game, but they're not gonna win 4 against the superior one, and I think
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
weeding out, the maybe the lower seed teams it's almost like a filter sort of system if we're gonna, you know,
That
give them
there's
silver lining for competitiveness.
There's something to that, and if you're gonna argue that the MLS regular season doesn't mean enough or hasn't meant enough in the past, then maybe this is some you can weave your way to, well, the best of 3 series in the first round proper gives the higher seed a significant advantage, which makes the regular season matter more. Mike Thomas, our man Mike Thomas, is also pointing out that the owners of lower seeded teams wanted playoff ticket home game revenue, right?
Yeah.
One, if you get out of the wild card, if you're an 8 or 9 team, or you're one of those teams in spot 5, 6, and 7, you are guaranteed 1 playoff home game. You might lose the series, you might not advance to the next round, and if you're already lower seeded, you're probably not getting a game in that next round anyway, most of those teams, but you are guaranteed 1 playoff home game. And again, that sort of splits the difference where it's like, well, this gives some value to the regular season, forces teams to really go for it so they can get home field advantage in the best of 3 series, and at the same time gives a home game to the lower seeds, a la the 2-game aggregate series that we used to do, which you could argue wasn't enough of an advantage for the higher seed.
I do like that point about the lower seed getting the playoff game because it kind of rewards the folks that came out for that, you know, quote unquote playoff push to get them into those lower seeds. Because I recall when I was covering Chicago Fire in the Schweinsteiger Nikolic season when they did make the play-in game, and
Mhm.
there was all this excitement. Yeah, oh my goodness, Chicago Fire made it to the playoffs. They lost on the road in the first game, and they never actually got to really appreciate it. It was kind of a, I don't know, a wet whoopee cushion of an experience for those kind of fans to
Well, but
get the
that's
little bit of a bump to make the playoffs, but never actually
I
see
mean,
them.
that but and that's the tension that MLS has built into it, right? It's a growing league and with a sport that is fighting for attention in America and fighting to get fans engaged. And if you are purely about the competitive integrity of the league and trying to make sure that the higher seed has a significant advantage and et cetera, et cetera, and then Chicago never gets a home game in the playoffs, and therefore there's no real boost of energy or attention for the Fire when they actually do make the playoffs, you're hurting your overall big picture growth for the league, even as you're actually, again, sort of making sure the regular season matters. And it's important to go get the higher seed so you get the home playoff game so you can have a possibility of advancing. I mean, I can see it both ways. The purist in me says value, make it important that you finish higher, right? Increase the value of the regular season by giving the home team or the higher seed a significant advantage. And if you do single elimination, that's the problem. You just described the problem that we have with that in a country again where, who knows if the Fire are ever going to make the playoffs again, right? That may have been their one shot. And but the thing you can't say, well, let's take away some of the advantage from the higher seed, or let's build in a system that always rewards the lower seed with something significant if it's not going to actually give us a worthy champ. I mean, that again, this is the tension that's built into all of this.
And are we really doing American sports if we don't reward the lower teams? I mean, come on.
That's what we do.
Yeah,
That's what we do.
that said, so this first game of the first round best of 3 series starts tonight, and the games kick off on Friday night, Inter Miami versus Atlanta, and are spread across until Tuesday with the final first game of the series. But let's start off.
It's a stretch, isn't it? It's a
Yeah,
bit of a yeah. It's like,
staggering.
can we not figure out a way to maybe make this a little bit more compact time-wise? I mean, it is a lot of games, I get it, and you wanna sorta highlight the games individually because they are supposed to be your most important matches, but it does feel like we're starting on Friday and we finish on Tuesday for game 1 for everybody? Okay.
Yeah, indeed. So Inter Miami versus the uh, just played Atlanta United. They went all the way until penalty kicks midweek,
Yeah.
taking on the record-breaking team. Can Atlanta make any waves in Florida tonight?
Yeah, that's, they have been okay against Inter Miami, maybe better than most teams. This is a wild season for Atlanta. This isn't the team that had Almada and Giakoumakis, so have they figured it out with Yari up front? And is Miranchuk coming along in the way that they want him to after they brought him in this summer? I think this is just too incomplete a team in Atlanta. I mean, they had a very nice night in a couple of moments against Montreal. They obviously also conspired to give up 2 goals to give Montreal a chance in that game with the howler from Guzan and the penalty kick that they gave up. I think Miami probably takes this. They're rested. They've got they've got the best player on the planet and some of his buds who are pretty good. I don't think Atlanta really has much of a shot in this game tonight. In Atlanta, I could see them finding a way to win. But in this game, I think it's Miami all the way.
I'm interested to see. Do you think Atlanta they scored one of their goals midweek in that wild card game? They had a 45 pass sequence or so.
Yeah.
Do you think that they're capable of doing that against this Miami team?
Sure. Yeah, yeah, I think so. I mean, you look at this Miami team and you think, oh, you know what they do? They close down passing lanes and they'll break up things and they'll press and re-win the ball. No, not really. That's not really what they do, right? They're not completely one-sided in terms of attack over defending, but I don't think that anybody thinks of Miami as a defensive juggernaut. Atlanta, if they can keep the ball, can do that. Now, of course, you might still give up 4 or 5 to Inter Miami because that's how good Inter Miami is. Again, and let's say the dumbest possible analysis thing we can, Robert, which is they need to mark Lionel Messi if they want to win this game. They have to find a way to not let him sit in pockets where he gets his head up or the guy against the Revs. Okay, the Revs are bad, but against the Revs on the final day, Lionel Messi comes in a second half substitute. How on earth is he standing around just waiting to receive the ball, play a one-touch pass, and make the run in behind to finish? Like, how is that a thing? But then again, he's magical that way.
Yeah,
He's got some
you,
skill.
you get too close to him, and he'll go around you or pass around you.
That's
And if you
true.
don't close him out, he's gonna lace a belter into the top corner. It's
He could also do
really
that.
it's
He could
really
also do that.
do or do not. But as far as the schedule, it's funny when we come back on Monday's show, we can still preview these first games. Funnily enough, we'll
That's
still be
right. That's right.
we'll still be previewing come then. So I'll just talk about the games between now and Monday. So tonight, obviously, Miami and Atlanta. Saturday night, the 26th, the Galaxy versus Colorado. And then Sunday night is Los Angeles FC versus Vancouver.
Yeah.
Which
Well,
one of those LA games? Okay, and there's 2 games on Sunday. Pardon me. Um,
I mean, you've got
Orlando and Charlotte as well.
yeah, you've got Orlando, Charlotte out east, as well. So no game in the East tomorrow, right? But 2 games on Sunday, East and West, and then Cincinnati and NYCFC coming into the new. I think I'm interested to see if Vancouver has actual momentum on Sunday and figures out a way to do something in LA. And I think Vinny Sartini is a very crafty manager. I don't know that team's good enough to beat LAFC over 3 games, but they walked into Providence Park and housed the Timbers. Why wouldn't they feel good about themselves? If they can keep themselves in that game, and if they don't make any silly turnovers and give LAFC the opportunity to hit them on the break, that could be very competitive. It really could. I'm not going to pick Vancouver to win the game, but it could be really competitive.
All right, weekend match ones. We'll see some of them this weekend. Long ball number 2, a review rather than a preview. The U.S. women's national team back in action, and we saw some scorching goals against the folks from Iceland.
Yeah.
3-1 last night. Emma Hayes continues to get entertaining performances out of this team.
Yeah, I mean, we know that there is talent here. A 19-year-old and Alyssa Thompson with an absolute banger for the first one. Everybody knows Jaden Shaw can play. We saw her actually do that. Had a bit of a star turn last year. We know that Sophia Smith is, world class on her best day, and maybe she's just hitting her prime. So after the Olympics, considering what Emma Hayes has to work with, all reasons to be very excited about the U.S. women's national team right now. And I love the fact that Iceland did get on the board. That was also a very good goal. Do you have the name of the player? I mean,
Oh,
I
I knew you were
appreciate.
gonna do. I knew you were
No, no,
gonna
no.
do this to me. So
I
those folks tuning into the show for the first time, a cottage part of this show is correcting
No, 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 I'm
Robert.
not correcting anything because I didn't say it because 'cause I'm trying, but it's Magnus daughter. I don't think it's that hard. Like, as Icelandic names go, Magnus daughter is not a hard one, right? That's an
That's
actually
fair.
it's pretty phonetically simple for me to say Magnus daughter, right? And that what does that mean? That means Magnus's daughter, right? Like, daughter of Magnus is what that means, like, literally
That's
speaking.
poetically simple. Poetically simple. I mean,
Yeah.
that's from the land where I think 1 in every 7 residents is a writer. So it's not surprising.
Oh, interesting. Didn't know they were so literary over
Yeah.
there in Iceland. Is that because they have so many, like, hot springs and places to relax, it just makes the juices flow creatively and they're
There's
writing a lot?
There's definitely lots of, scenic vantage points to get very deep and thoughtful and have, like, some writing montages are probably pretty easy to come by when
I need to
you're
get
living
there.
there.
I need to visit Iceland
I was
and,
blown away.
see what it's
So
like.
the Cub Scouts, so my son is in Scouts, and we go to, like, the zoo or, like, the park a couple miles away. In the town up the way, we just heard that a Boy Scout group are going to Iceland for a hike.
Wow, that sounds amazing. That sounds amazing.
How much popcorn do you have to sell to make that trip?
That's is that what they sell? The Boy Scouts sell? The Girl Scouts sell cookies and the Boy Scouts sell popcorn? Okay,
Yeah.
now I know. Now I know. I wasn't much of a scout myself, so I don't have a lot of experience with it.
Bef
I this is not one of those games where you draw a whole lot of conclusions, right? Now, Iceland is not a disaster. They're 13th in the world in terms of FIFA ranking. Take that for what it is. The United States is supposed to win this game, and they did. They give up again. They give up a good goal, and maybe you're a little annoyed that they couldn't keep the clean sheet. I'm sure Emma Hayes and her staff are going to be focused on something like that. Like, hey, why couldn't we keep a clean sheet? How do we allow her to sort of cut inside on that left foot and beat Alyssa Nair that way? Do we need to close down there? Is there something missing? And do we have a bad plan for that particular play? Those things might come up, but it for the most part, you've got to be thrilled that the U.S. Women's National Team looks this way coming out of the Olympics. And you mentioned this, or you mentioned this earlier before we came on the air. We had a debut in this game with Hal Hirschfeld coming on in the
Mhm.
72nd minute. There's some younger, newer faces. I would think Yasmin Ryan counts among those, who is not necessarily an established player. I mean, when you see some of the ways that Emma Hayes deployed this team to get players on the field, it is also a little bit fascinating. And I will leave that to close watchers of this team to give us a full breakdown of how this works, right? But you had in that front five Mallory Swanson, Alyssa Thompson, Lindsay Horan, Rose Lavelle, and then Lynn Williams also playing in midfield, nominally speaking. I mean, who saw that one coming, right? And somebody tell me how much defensive work she did on the evening overall, because we're talking about a player who is certainly not usually deployed that way.
Yeah, I usually consider her kind of a straight line, get on the end of a long ball type of a player. Um, so that is unusual. And when you listed those names, that's just an incredibly stacked, attacking list of players there. Um,
Yeah.
Pretty incredible what is, um, you know, in the locker at the available to be chosen for Emma Hayes. And one thing about this performance I did want to highlight as well is that 3-1 looks like a comfortable victory, but it was 1-1 until the 85th minute when Jaden Shaw put the team on her back. I think what they used in commentary on the game, where she goes through 2 or 3 defenders and then pokes it through the goalie's legs. I mean, that is posterizing, if there's such a thing in soccer. And so there was it must have been some sort of pressure. They didn't let the game just fade out as a 1-1. And then Sophia Smith put in the exclamation mark with
it's a friendly. I mean, let's again, maybe you're a little concerned that it took 85 minutes for them to find the winner from Jaden Shaw. But you can be thrilled about Jaden Shaw and what she did to create that goal. I mean, like I said, it's a friendly. Emma Hayes made 5 changes. Iceland made all 6 of their available changes in a friendly, including 3 at halftime. So, it's one of those things, like, you just cannot draw a ton of value from analysis of that match. And we take the win, and we salute Emma Hayes, and we say, good on you, Alyssa Thompson, Jaden Shaw, Sophia Smith, and we move on.
The United States women's national team returns to action in this camp again on Sunday. They will face Iceland one more time, and then Wednesday take on Argentina. Long ball number 3 here for Friday. Jose Mourinho plays the hits after his red card.
Okay, it's the bit. And I know I know in Spanish we would say Jose, but I'm pretty sure, and I don't have accents in this banner, but I'm pretty sure we say Jose because in Portugal they do it weird. So you got to say Jose Mourinho.
There isn't a single. I don't know if I'm going to start rewarding myself for a show we get through where I don't get corrected on the pronunciation. And I didn't even think I was bad at pronunciation. I don't consider myself an ignoramus when it comes to pronouncing things, but I have a learning curve.
I know. I'm sorry. I hate to be the stickler, but I just it's a thing when you say people's names as part of your living, and I'm not saying I get them all right. In fact, I get lots of them wrong, but what I'm always trying to do is make sure I'm getting as close as I can. So maybe
you're right. I guess I was trying to go against. When I hear Jose, I think of an English sort of pronunciation, like a Martinez sort of a thing. So it's
oh man. I mean, yeah, if you want to say whatever, you could say the special one. You don't even have to say his name. You can just say the special one. And the reason we're talking about him,
Coach Mourinho.
The headline here, the headline isn't Fenerbahce draws Manchester United in the Europa League. That's not our headline, because yeah, sure, that's somewhat interesting just as a result in the league. But what's most interesting about that match is what Jose Mourinho. First of all, the man got red carded. Right? He got red carded. He got sent off. Ended up having to coach from the stands in that game yesterday. He then had a post-game press conference where he said so many things we cannot even squeeze them into this show. I do think we should build to the audio, the video that we have, and we'll share this first. This is the quote Jose Mourinho had after this game. The best option for me once I leave Fenerbahce is to join a club that is not competing in UEFA tournaments. So if there's any club languishing at the bottom of the Premier League in 2 years, I'm ready to take charge. Now, is this posturing? Is this Jose Mourinho? I mean, he's whining on some level, right?
Yeah, he's throwing shade at UEFA and officials and all that. So he was like, yeah, you give me a high-paying job where I don't have to interact with FIFA just to throw some shade on them.
I guess that's what that is. So he said that. He also, we don't have the quote, but I heard this yesterday. He said when the reporter said, you got how do you say, you held on to a point, or you got a point off of Manchester United. How does that feel? He said, no, Manchester United got a point off of us. That's how he said it, which is like,
I love his pettiness to Man U.
Who else? I mean, that's okay. And then there's this. So we've got video here. This is Jose Mourinho talking about the red card that he was given yesterday in this match.
Only one place to start, the penalty incident that saw you red carded. What are your thoughts on the incident?
I don't want to speak about it.
But he will.
You've just been in, I think, to see the referees. What did they say?
He told me something incredible. He told that at the same time he could see the action in the box and my behavior on the touchline. I congratulate him because he's absolutely incredible. His peripheral vision during the game, 100 miles per hour, he had one eye on the penalty situation and he had one eye on the bench and on my behavior. So that's the explanation he gave me. That's why he's one of the best referees in the world.
I love the last bit. That's why he's the best in the world. He's able to look at two things at the same time.
Deadpan. Just like no, like he's not winking. He's not Riley smiling. He's not giving any indication. Like if you, I mean, obviously you can understand from him saying the whole thing is sarcastic, but it's the most deadpan sarcasm. It's so good, and he's face the whole time. Like he gives nothing away. And it's incredible. I'm so happy right now. Like Jose Mourinho made me so happy today. It's like a Friday gift that we get to hear him be Jose that way. And like, let's be honest, he is in a backwater. Like, no offense to Turkish football. And Fenerbahce, Galatasaray, Besiktas, those are big clubs. But for Jose Mourinho, this is a backwater. He's slumming it. And so he took every opportunity that the stage of playing against his former club and one of the biggest clubs in the world in his home building, you know, and the result, like if they had gotten beaten, I'm sure he would have had something else to say, but he was able to, oh man, it was so good. So good.
One of my favorite all-time quotes from him, and it's still, he can lean on it still, is my best accomplishment is getting second place with Manchester United.
Yes,
it's still one of my all-time
Yeah.
favorite quotes.
Well,
And
before this game, Robert, before this game, in the build-up to this match, he said that he was hopeful that Manchester City, I'm paraphrasing, that Manchester City and the 115 charges, that they would be stripped of the title the year he finished second with Manchester United so that he could get his medal and his bonus from United for winning the league. He said that before this game in Istanbul against Manchester United. I love it. I love it.
So to finish this off, maybe we could have led with this, but is Jose a joker or a bully?
Jose a joker. He's both. He's both. He can't be. It doesn't have to be one or the other. This isn't a binary choice. Yeah, he's definitely a bully. Like he uses that wit. He uses that energy that he has to like again with the reporter who didn't do anything wrong, asking the question the way he did. He's cutting the reporter down. What do you mean they got a point? We got a point from them. They got a point from us. We were the better team. Like it wasn't just that. It wasn't just like a whining thing. It was like, you idiot. We were the better team. To cut them down. It's great. It's great. I love what did he say? Peripheral? No, he said he put a C in there or a K sound.
Paraphitical?
Paraphitical. I think it was paraphitical that he said, which is now my favorite word. I'm going to be using that quite a bit thanks to Jose Mourinho.
That result still leaves Man United winless in the Europa League, having drawn 3 matches in a row there. So interesting times for Man U and Ten Hag with Jose Mourinho, dripping. His person was dripping with sarcasm there. All right, let's move along, take a breath, and come into today's Friday's Hot Topic. All right, big news of the week. Today's Hot Topic. Paul Tenorio dropped kind of a bomb. One of the big issues that separates American soccer from the rest of the world is the calendar. Big news coming out from The Athletic and Paul Tenorio. MLS considering adopting the fall to spring calendar to match European football.
Yeah. So what I think what we got from the article is that this is largely about the business of the game. And I don't even mean making money domestically, because very simply, you could argue that they will lose ticket revenue from playing games through the winter. There is talk of a 5-week break, which arrests momentum of the league. I don't know if there's a consideration for sort of an apertura clausura kind of split the way that Mexico does it, or if it would be one league season just with a Bundesliga style break. I mean, so many things are up in the air. It's kind of hard to even know how to feel completely about this idea. But this seems to be about lining up transfer windows more than anything else. The idea that MLS wants to fully engage in the worldwide transfer market, certainly with clubs in Europe, and because of the calendar here, it doesn't work. Players are unwilling to make a choice to come to MLS because the European window is open, because the season is starting. You get to bet in with a team that's just beginning a campaign rather than joining mid-season. You obviously have players who haven't been able to leave and follow a European dream because clubs are less willing to do business with MLS. MLS doesn't want to let part ways with players in the summer when those European clubs are looking for pieces. So all these things are on the table. I'm surprisingly for myself, I'm open to this idea. I am. But again, I also think that if you are somebody who goes to games on a regular basis and you live in a northern climate, this has got to be kind of like, what the hell? In fact, I'll bring this in. I was looking at Twitter X today, and an old friend of mine from soccer blogging days, Dwayne Rollins, the 24th minute on Twitter. Lots of people will know him. He's a Toronto FC guy. He lives in Toronto. He's been following that team from the very beginning, writing about them, talking about them. Canadian national team guy as well. He said, "You know what, MLS? Fine. Switch your calendar to winter. See how it goes. Then, when attendance crashes in the northern climates, you can switch back for good, and we never have to talk about this stupidity again." So that's a guy who lives in the Great White North saying, "Nope, this is dumb." I wonder what the split is, Robert, among the committed MLS fan base, and whether this is about them at all.
Yeah, well, this news coming out, is this actually real news, or is this an informal opinion poll, right? Like, are they taking the temperature of how everyone feels about this? I mean, for that gentleman living in Toronto, that's a whole nother level of winter. I'm in Michigan, and I think Toronto is probably, maybe a level up from us here. And I think that if they cleverly arrange, because in the article it does talk about taking a winter break, 5 weeks or so, and you talk about a split season. I think that if the end of the first half of the season, they taper off and play more southern climates at the end there, and then when they return to play at the beginning of spring, they do similar, like 2-3 match weeks where they are in the southern, so you could almost expand that to like maybe a 7-8 week window.
Yeah.
It would be difficult. Obviously, there would have to be at least some games that are in horrifically cold situations, but the national team showed the whole country and showed the world that they are not afraid to have players play in cold climates. And if the fans are truly engaged, they will fill the stadiums. They were absolutely full stadiums when they played the game in Canada, when they played the game in Minnesota. Obviously, the national team is a little different of a draw, but those fans, if they really want to dig in, then
you're talking about dangerous kind of conditions in Minnesota for that national team game.
Yeah,
and I
tongue in
think
cheek there.
the Canadians loved putting the Mexicans through it in Edmonton, right? I mean, and obviously Canadians are hardier folk when it comes to cold, so for them it's nothing. I think look, you have to consider the impact on the quality of play. Like, you have to consider that. You can't do this.
Said August summer games.
No, but that's the thing. Like, I don't know how to do this empirically, right? This is all about the eye test. This is all about subjective opinion on what's better: soccer played in frigid temperatures on rock hard surfaces, or soccer played in sweltering conditions where players are just, they're melting out there, and certainly in places like Houston and Orlando and Nashville and places like that. I don't know if one is definitely better than the other, right? You can't play in snow. So if it's snowing, you better hope it stops snowing and you clear the pitch. And then, okay, is this surface good enough to play soccer on, or is it too much to play soccer on? It's not like football. Like football in cold and snowy weather is kind of cool. And, yes, people can put themselves in danger. I think Kansas City fans are still thawing out from a Chiefs game where it was like ridiculous last year. I mean, I don't know, man. This is so tough because it's always been a differentiator for MLS that has been, for me, a positive. It means my soccer watching never has to stop. I've got MLS when I don't have European football. I got European football when I don't have MLS. Now you're going to switch that. if you're talking about the big picture and trying to sell this to new fans, maybe, but selling it to old fans who are used to going through the summer, certainly MLS has moved away from the family-focused marketing, approach, but there's still lots of people who take their families out and want to go to games when kids aren't in school, who want to be able to take their kids out to the stadium, and maybe that's tougher during the winter time. I mean, there are a million different factors here that could play into this, but I will say that sort of my base instinct is that this feels like a step of maturation for Major League Soccer. It feels like joining the world in the world's game in a way that I'm not sure anything else they could do would feel. Yeah, even if they went to a single table and determined their champion by points, I would still, that is a step behind this move in terms of aligning your windows. The logistics of it make it scary.
Yes, agreed. The logistics very difficult to tackle. There'll be imperfections, but there is imperfections now. But this change, if it happens, would change, especially for the match going folks, season ticket holders. That changes their whole tradition of their experience with engaging with their team. So instead of those summer days when the kids are off, late nights in the summer going to games, those might be replaced by, maybe holiday, or even what if MLS has begins a tradition of MLS matches on Christmas Day. And we, we
There you
wake
go.
up and watch the English games in the morning, and then there's a full afternoon of MLS Christmas games. So
Yeah.
there is possibilities there. And then the business end of MLS gets kind of caught up in the fall of the seasons getting colder, full swing of football, a World Series, and can kind of get lost in the mix. Instead of competing against football and the World Series, they'd
Yes.
be playing MLS Cup playoffs in the spring, and
Yes.
rather competing with like the NBA, NHL in the beginning of baseball, rather than
Right.
the height of sports right now.
And let's be clear that what we're talking about is more games potentially impacted by inclement weather, not like we don't have any games impacted by inclement weather now. I mean, the MLS Cup
Thunderstorms, heat,
playoffs. Well,
hurricanes.
thunderstorms, heat, yes, absolutely. On the warm end, on the cold end, it actually happens because of the way the season plays out. The playoffs right now, as you mentioned. I mean, speaking of Kansas City and thawing out, 2013 is like this deep dark memory for me because I was there at what was then, I think, Livestrong's Park and is now Children's Mercy Park, freezing to death or almost freezing to death watching Sporting Kansas City beat RSL in an MLS Cup final. So, when you play, if you're not going to do away with playoffs, and that's a different discussion for a different day, but if you're not going to do away with playoffs, then you are going to risk pushing games into cold weather environments at this point in the calendar. Now, the MLS is kind of lucky. If things hold in terms of the playoff bracket, they're sort of lucky that the top two teams in the West are LA teams. The top team in the East is Inter Miami. That, more than likely those games are not going to be impacted by bad weather. They're going to get a showpiece game. They're going to get, nice weather for that, whoever hosts. But you do risk it. Like Columbus could have weather if they make a final and host that game. It has happened before. So, it is kind of like there is no perfect situation. It's just which choice gives you the best of as many things as you can get. In this case, I mean, do you value the transfer windows lining up more than you value a bunch of games through the summer in what would be nicer weather?
Do you think that I mean, so just like on the surface, like zooming out, the aspect of the United States soccer stepping out from the age of isolationism with this calendar is exciting, to your point of the transfer windows aligning. Like that, just having it not be opposite would be fantastic. I mean, teams and players reluctant to come in the summer for the reasons you pointed out. Middle of the MLS season, teams don't want to sell, and then might weigh into players wanting to come. Like, I don't want to get stuck.
Well,
there.
but again, and Mike Thomas said it earlier, and I don't have the comment lined up. But if you do kind of play that out in your mind, right? Yeah, maybe the windows lining up means some players will be more likely to sign with MLS, but you're also going to have to sell them on the idea of playing through the winter in certain places. Like, can Toronto attract players if now they've got to play the bulk of their season from October to March, right? Where in Toronto, does it get above 40 degrees at any point during that window? Probably not very often, that is an issue in terms of selling the league to players, because now you're saying, hey, you have to play in this league in which is for some players going to be a tougher sell because it's behind a lot of European leagues. And by the way, it's going to be pretty cold when you play.
Yeah, the weather doesn't really get nice here until like May. So there's a lot of months of,
And yet you live there. And yet you choose to live. You're a Michigander or whatever you are. I can't believe it.
You were the army brat, and I was the automotive engineer brat.
Air Force,
moving around.
Air Force, get it right, Air Force.
What did I say?
Army.
Oh, I meant to say military. My apologies.
Okay.
Military brat. I was dragged across the world for the automotive industry.
I see.
And we landed here. I spent time in other places, but yeah, that's fair. I mean, yeah, we do live in a place. People that live here ask themselves that all the time as well.
And now we're gonna ask players from around the world to make the same sort of choices about where they play. It is interesting. It's a big question the league is facing.
So if you were like a Colombian player on the rise, what sounds more desirable, like Houston on a 95-degree day in August or Toronto on a -10-degree day in December?
You're certainly more accustomed as a Colombian to the warmer weather.
True.
So that you may feel like that's an adaptation you can make. I mean, my wife is Puerto Rican. She grew up on the island. She moved to Northern Virginia when she was in her mid-20s. She still cannot handle any hint of cold weather. Like if the temperature drops below 70 degrees, it's a disaster. And we need blankets, we need hand warmers, we need space heaters. And so I think
what is Spanish for Jason, it's too cold?
Demasiado frío is what that is. Yeah.
Does she have like a go-to, like, ooh?
She just steals all my stuff, like all my hoodies, everything I own that's meant to keep me a little bit warm ends up one of her layers. And I'm talking like multiple of my things end up on her at the same time as a layer. So that's where that's at.
As we talk out this calendar shift, the Mexican system is the one that's starting to make the most sense for logistics. But the gap between the Apertura and the Clausura would have to be, don't correct my pronunciations of those.
I'm not. No, I'm not.
But I feel like that gap would have to be pretty huge. Could the American audience understand like a 2-part season like that?
No, it's so this is another selling point. Like if it's in the story, which again is so interesting. We're talking about this from a media analysis perspective. How does this story? What is the intent of this story? And Paul Tenorio is doing his job in reporting, but is this meant as floating the idea by MLS with Nelson Rodriguez all over the story? Or is this, something different? Like is MLS testing the waters or what? I don't know. That in the story, Paul reports that there would be a 5-week break. That is a long time. That's a long time. You basically tell people, forget about us. We're not around. Now, how do you keep attention? Like that's an off season. How do you keep people's attention when you're working through that 5-week break? And again, if you are not doing Apertura Clausura, if you are doing one season, you got to remind you got to spend like 2 weeks educating everybody. This is where we are in the standings. Remember, this team was in first when we stopped playing for the winter, and now we're getting back to now. They've got to try to finish this out. Those things are kind of wild to think about.
Yeah, they're talking about introducing this after the 2026 FIFA World Cup happening here, of course. It'd be interesting if they install this after. Would there be like no MLS from November all the way until after the World Cup in August?
Don't know. I don't know. That's the thing. I have no idea. I have no idea if this would be finish the season in 2025 and not play again until after the World Cup in 2026. I don't know if it would be play half a season, finish the season in 2025, then play half a season starting in January, February, or play part of a season leading into the World Cup, or play an exhibition season leading into the World Cup, or play some sort of League Cup style tournament. Who knows? Who knows at this point? It would be a shift.
Yeah, this story really opens up Pandora's box. You got another?
You know what? I just remembered Russia did this. I mean, obviously Russia's, country non grata at this point, but Russia did this not that long ago, like within recent memory. So maybe we need to go back and see how they executed their shift, because they were on the calendar that we're on now, and they decided to shift to line up with Europe, because I think largely the thinking was they weren't able to do anything in UEFA competitions because their teams were on a very different schedule, which we know about because MLS always struggles against the Liga MX teams in the CONCACAF Champions Cup because of that same issue.
Yeah, the Russian league, the leaders in cold weather adaptation. We'll see. We'll have to dig into that a little bit. But have your say. Hit us up on X and Instagram, Kickaround there. Give us a follow and your opinion or another question. This story just brings out a million questions. Or write us an email, morningkickaround@gmail.com. And of course, hit the subscribe button on Morning Kickaround. We blasted the doors down on our 300 follower goal or supporter goal, whatever they call it, on subscriber. My apologies. The subscriber goal of 300, well on our way to 50,000. Let's take a break, come back, and the next segment won't infuriate Jason at all. We'll come back with a culture war. All right, culture war here on Friday morning. There's a lot of content creators and influencers out there on the interwebs. Some fun, some ugly, and some just kind of get under your skin. And we got something a little different. We're gonna watch something and kind of get everyone's reaction here.
We're gonna do a reaction right here on Morning Kickaround. This is something Robert brought to the table. I didn't know this existed, and Robert linked this, and I watched part of it. I didn't watch the whole thing, Robert. I didn't even make it through the whole thing when you sent it originally, because I was like, no, what do we do? So okay, let me not bias anybody who's going to be watching with us here on the live show. But this is something Robert brought to the table. What's the name of this influencer, Robert?
I believe his name is Nagisa.
Nagisa. Young Nagisa on Instagram. Let's watch this together and see what we think of young Nagisa and his content.
Me for a Premier League morning. There's nothing better than spending the weekend watching the Premier League with family and friends. It's the perfect way to kick off the day. My setup is all about maximizing the experience, so I've brought a second TV down from upstairs to catch multiple games at once. With the TVs ready, food prepped, and everything in place, it's time for the perfect day of football with friends. One of the questions I'm asked a lot is which team I support and why.
Okay, I gotta stop for a second. Why are we preparing flowers, Robert? What are we doing?
I mean, he's being a quality host here. He's trying to, what do you say, maximize all of his friends' experience.
Okay, so this is a very, very current day influencer style video, right? This is like
the tone, the pacing.
Yeah, the pacing of the video, the cut shots from, it's almost like a time lapse kind of thing. And then
arranging the pillows.
I like to get up on a Saturday morning and watch the voiceover, which it's not even like just that. It's not even like an NPR style low key soft voiceover. It's also, I don't know. There's something. He's a young person. I feel like an old guy, but this is part. Okay, let's continue and see what happens with these flowers.
I've been a Liverpool fan for years, ever since one of my favorite coaches growing up convinced my dad and me to support the team. We've been loyal fans ever since and supporting Liverpool from.
Okay.
He's got gourds.
Okay.
What is that on the board too? What is
I don't know. I don't know. Somebody in the chat might know what that is. No, I'm sorry. I can't help myself. Okay. So the charcuterie culture, that's obviously a massive thing right now, right? And I'm not going to pretend not to be somewhat adjacent to charcuterie culture. I don't post
charcuterist.
I can be a charcuterist on occasion. I don't post anything. I make these things for the enjoyment of the people I care about, my family and my friends. Right? This is what I do. But I don't. How many juices does he? I mean, I hope this is a mimosa situation. At least this better be a mimosa situation. Let's find out.
DC makes me feel connected to fans all over the world. Living in DC, there are plenty of great bars to watch the Premier League games at, but There's something special about creating your own setup at home, surrounded by friends and homemade food.
Okay, the other part about this, right? And I'm not as gatekeepy as I used to be on stuff like this, Robert. Like there was a time when I would say like there's a certain way to be a fan.
You were
And
cynical.
I was a fairly rigid person. Like how are you going to be a fan of that team when you know nothing about that place? You don't have any real connection. What did he say?
His youth coach convinced him and his dad to become Liverpool fans.
He was convinced by his youth coach. I used to be somebody who would say that's an invalid reason to be a fan of a team. Like you just that does not work for me. But
The one
fine.
person that knew anything about any soccer told me this is what I should do.
Yeah, exactly. But it's fine. Look, again, we're Americans. A lot of us don't have direct connections. We're not from these places. And if you want to support a team in the Premier League, you got to find some way to ultimately get there. I guess that's okay. But you are stripping away everything about what he said. Bars are fine, but it's nice to sit around with friends. I mean, I watch a game at home because I have to, not because I want to. I would rather be at the pub. I'd rather be at the bar. I mean,
bars are
don't
fun.
know.
I love. I mean, if you get a crowded bar for a good game, I mean that's a hype experience. I like doing that.
All right, let's see what else we got here. We're almost done.
Watching the Premier League from the US is a unique experience since the games air in the morning, unlike most sports which are on in the evening. After the matches, I still have the rest of the day to enjoy, making it the perfect way to start my weekend.
Okay.
How do you spend your Premier League weekend?
This is
Come join
100%. This was tagged on Instagram just for reference. The Premier League, PL in USA, the Instagram account for the Premier League in the United States was tagged. I'm almost positive this is sponsored content, or at least somewhat encouraged directly by people at the Premier League, right?
Or he's trying to get featured on the NBC morning show before the game.
Maybe.
Like,
Maybe. But
check out this guy, how he does his Premier League morning.
It's so much. I mean, even like I don't want, man. I don't know. I feel mean now because so much about this is maddening. The decoration in the house. I'm gonna mute this and I'm gonna put it back because I do want to see. I just want to see some visuals here. Okay. I mean, first of all, it's a beautiful apartment. I don't know. This dude lives in DC. Like maybe he needs to. Maybe I'll change my mind if he invites me over because I'm 10 minutes from the city. So. From the district. So young Nagisa, get at me. If you're watching this, you find out that we put this up here. I don't want to tear you down. Like, brother, you're putting multiple TVs up. That's great. You got friends over. That's great. You're making charcuteries. I also like that. If you're serving mimosas, I'm totally in. I just so much about the way this is presented bothers me. It doesn't feel
real.
Like it doesn't. Well, so this is the thing. All right, here's a comment from Mitch. We don't have to feel mean. I'm almost sure this guy is in on the joke. Do you think this is satire? Do you think he is satirizing these kinds of social media posts and pulling in the Premier League as part of it?
I think so. I'm sure he's he's just an influencer who likes soccer. So in fairness, I don't know what his other content. Maybe he has day in the life of a computer programmer on his other videos.
The other thing about this, which is so now, and I think people have normalized it. We're setting up a camera to take video of us moving a television to set up for our Premier League morning, right? Like it's the intentionality of it. It's the whole thing about like I'm there used to be this guy. I don't know if he's still around, but there used to be this guy who would like do an every morning video, like his life every morning, and you have to set up the camera like you're by yourself. I don't know if this dude's got help, but you have to set up the camera to take video of you putting your clothes on for the morning, like getting dressed in the morning. Like the thing about showing your life that way and like these very, very basic tasks as like, I don't know.
I put my sock on with my right foot first.
I don't know, man. Like, that's the thing. Like, if we didn't document it, did it actually happen? Like, if I don't show you bringing my television, I'm bringing my television downstairs, then did I actually do it? Right?
I like the comment from Luke. Wait until this guy finds out about beer and pork rinds.
I mean, I don't know. Like, if you want to be authentic, you need to serve some meats inside of breads. Like, you need to serve up some pies, right?
That's
Some
one
meat.
thing about the UK I miss. Sausage rolls are fantastic, and they don't make them the same over here.
I think there's lots of laws about this. I have friends from West Virginia, and they have these thing called roni rolls, which is basically just bread with pepperoni inside of them, and they love
Ooh,
them.
Roni
And I was
roll.
always told, like, you can't pack, and it's because they're packaged, right? You can't package meat inside bread in most states, but in West Virginia, they get away with it. I mean, you can make them. I don't
You
know.
said Roni roll?
Yeah.
A whole new way to intake pepperoni. I mean, that's
I
good.
don't,
You always
and
want
I'm
a pepperoni vehicle.
I don't want to turn this into like this macho thing where we can't have stuff, nice stuff. Like as men, we're allowed to have nice stuff. And hopefully we got some women that are going to watch this show too. So I'm not trying to alienate anybody, but Luke is saying it. I once hosted a breakfast viewing party for the Belgian Grand Prix. Went for it, made waffles and everything. The boys thought it was weird. They never came back. Like you scared off your boys because they were like, "What is this? What are we doing? Brunch?" Like I know as Premier League fans in America that's the timing of it. Like it's perfectly fit for brunch, but it still feels weird to like tie these things together. Like I don't know, man. I don't know, man. I don't know.
But Jason, either way, I'm glad we watched that. That was good fun. Hit us up in the comments. We got some good ones. Comment on the video. Maybe we'll come back to it next week if anyone has some more good ones.
Guys, if you're gonna, maybe we all need to do this, and we need to go through this experience, and we need to see if we can get the same sort of joy as young Nagisa did, right? And look, by the way, this guy is probably killing it on social media. Like I didn't even look that up. Do you have his numbers? Like do you have again, I have a little bit of a feeling this was all placed. This isn't necessarily sort of organic.
Yeah.
83,000 followers this dude's got.
So he knows what
And
he's doing.
And his stuff is lifestyle, home decor, and menswear. So he's already working in that milieu, right? And look, sometimes I wish I was more that guy. Like I'm really like in tune with fashion right now and menswear and lifestyle. Like he put a television in his living room. His extra television in his living room is on a TV stand with a tripod, and I'm like suddenly like I'm coveting. There it is.
That's the shot that I will remember forever is him carrying his TV like
the way
that.
He's carrying his TV. Like, but this tripod stand, like, yeah, brother, like I kind of dig it. I kind of dig it. Yeah,
I don't have a TV on a tripod.
Yeah. Oh man, maybe we need to make our own version of this. So they're having a discussion in the chat. Like, film yourself opening a Bud Light and some Doritos in your boxers and socks. Like, here's how
I just imagine Mitch like wiping his hands on his tank top, you know, getting
here's
orange.
How I Premier League morning, and then you set up your camera and you show
this is me incredibly hungover, barely able to keep it down in the morning, and I flip on the TV having missed half the game already, and that's my morning.
Sure, there's that. I do think this is the way. This is the entry point to being able to have the drinks watching the game. Now, I don't know about the mimosa thing. Like, I feel like that's a little twee. Like, you know, do some pints, bro. Like get some Carlsberg, get some, I don't know, you don't even be authentic. You don't even have to be authentic. Just get some decent beer, right? I know it does feel like you have to drink something from Europe when you're watching these games. That definitely feels like a thing.
Yeah, maybe a poll on the on our Instagram or something. Is it okay to drink 9 a.m. Beers just for the sake of because you're watching sports? Because I've been to bars in the morning. It's like, do you get a coffee or do you get a beer?
No. I think a lot of people use, I'm not going to say as an excuse, but lots of people like to go out to the pub because they're open and they're serving beer at 9 or whatever. And you're watching the game, you're having a pint. And I do think that's part of the draw. I think it's hilarious that some people are basically cosplaying this thing, but go to the pub, have the beer. I've been places around the country for those Premier League mornings and they're very fun. Like I get it. I understand why people do that. I feel like this dude's hack is that there's a lot of work involved here. Like
that took a while.
That's 3 bills. That's 3 bills on the charcuterie and the juice and the flowers and everything. Like he's dropping some change on this, but I think he's found the hack where he's drinking at home watching the games. Because if I get up on a Saturday morning to watch a Premier League game, I'm not going and cracking open a beer. My wife would think I'm insane and I'd be in big trouble. So I'm not day drinking is a thing, but not day drinking at 9 in your own house like that, or 7:30 for that matter. Right. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, well, at the bar, it's a whole different story than on your couch. Like your kids are jumping around, bopping on your knee, and you're like, get away from my
right.
pint here.
So many things. I know we're still doing this, but I just love this so much. Mike saying, moving the OJ into a pitcher, that alone is too much work. Just pour it from the carton. See, this is what it is. It's all for show. This is not about the game. This is not about being with your boys or being with your friends. It is about the show. It is about the look of it all. The flowers. What are we doing with the flowers? How does that enhance your Premier League viewing experience?
I like that, compare that fragrance of flowers and baked goods compared to like what going to a game might smell like.
Man. Okay, I'm going to put the call out. I know we're just a lowly little YouTube show right now, and we're still building to 50,000 followers or subscribers. But young Nagisa, get at me. Nagisa, get at me. I'm right down the road. I can pop by. Maybe I need to be converted. I don't know if my Winswear game is good enough for you, but I'm ready, brother. Call me up to the big leagues because I feel like I'm probably missing something.
Maybe he could give you like a Premier League morning home rescue and bring you over some potpourri and some fine beverage.
Yes, it's a Premier League morning makeover. I'm in for this. This is brilliant, Robert. I think we've got to sell this. Somebody get the Premier League on the phone. Let's go.
Let's go indeed. And we've had so much fun. We've run overtime here this morning. Help us get to our goals of subscribers on YouTube. That's the main fuel to the fire to get this thing off and running. Morning Kickaround on YouTube. Subscribe. And if you want to follow along, we are mkickaround on X and Instagram and mkickaround at gmail.com. Lots of soccer ahead domestically and all around the world. So everybody, until Monday, please enjoy your soccer.
Bye-bye, everybody.